First, we have seen candidate Barack Obama talk a lot about change. Once he took office, President Barack Obama has talked a lot about responsibility. Whatever the topic may be, he says the word responsibility a lot. What does that mean to you?
It means that we have to think, we have to see what we can do as individuals or as people, meeting with other people and seeing exactly what we can do to make our situation better in terms of doing the correct things, jobs, getting an education to understand how one can do a certain job, getting an education to choose a career, getting an education to reinvent oneself when the factory has left, how to take better care of the little bit of money we have left, what to do with it, the responsibility on every individual. And with that, I think it also means the home. It means one's neighborhood. It means one's job if one is to give service, that one should, where one was half-stepping, take a full step now. And get the person we're supposed to be helping to try to take on as much as the person can.
Dr. Prasan, as part of your effort to write this book, Come On People, on the path from victims to victors, as you go around to different communities, what are you seeing with this current economic situation? And is it more difficult now for people to become victors when we have this economic situation that we do today?
I think people are hurting much more now because of the economic downturn. So there's more pressure, there's more stress. I mean, imagine losing a job and not having any money to take care of your family. There's stress on the entire family, from the mother to the father, but also the children. And I can't think of a stress that's bigger than having no money and having to face homelessness. So already they're predicting, and in fact there's been an increase in crime in many communities. There's been an increase in domestic violence. Many things are falling apart because of the pressures. And I think that means we even have to be more responsible during these times and taking the high road and not disintegrating and collapsing and letting things go, particularly for the children. That we have to really look out for the children who are really suffering under this strain. And so I think this is a good time for President Obama to talk about responsibility and personal responsibility, because there are even more demands on us, like to be adults and to take the high road.
Well, I also think that the instructions, an awful lot of people hear the word responsibility, but there are no instructions. For instance, domestic violence is up. Well, why is it up? If a person is depressed about not being able to get a job, if a person is depressed about losing a home and going into some shelter or moving in with other relatives and not being able to, quote unquote, hold one's head high, what are the instructions when this sadness turning to frustration, turning to anger, that I will turn on you and physically and verbally attack you, my love, my wife, my girlfriend, my child, my dog?
Is President Obama giving enough instruction?
It's not up to him to give instructions that way. There are people who are supposed to, who are paid by the government in cities all around this United States who have studied human behavior, and Alvin can tell clearly better than I, they seem to feel that there's not enough of them. I know, for instance, schools where, let's say it's in a neighborhood that has an awful lot of problems, where 30% of the people definitely have no clear idea of what to do about their quote-unquote low economic situation. Yet, they don't want to seek help. They don't want to go. And then the people who happen to be serving them in the school, 240 students, and the school district assigns one counselor for 240 kids or 400 kids. It is absolutely an accident not waiting to happen. It's an accident happening. There's no child with a problem who is going to feel that comfortable in the chaos going on in a school like that, in the hallways, in the classroom, to stop and go to you and say,
I think Bill is making a very good point that that people have to be willing to ask for help, and there have to be counselors available to help people during these stressful times. But unfortunately, I know in the state of Massachusetts, for instance, where I'm from, that because of the cutbacks, because all the states are suffering in terms of the budgets, one of the first areas that they're cutting, in fact, are mental health services for people during these bad economic times, which is should be the last thing that's being cut, because many of these men or women and children, if we could encourage them to get help, we could cut down or prevent, you know, increased domestic violence or child abuse and that type of thing.
Part of this program includes viewers who call in across the country. Also today we have students joining us from Yanceyville, North Carolina. They go to Bartlett Yancey High School. They're aboard our C-SPAN Civic bus. This is the 45th stop for our C-SPAN Civics bus. And our first student is Alexandria Gwynn. Good morning, Alexandria.
Good morning. Hi, Mr. Cosby and Dr. Poussin.
good morning.
I had a question.
If you don't mind, I'd like you to state your age, okay? Hello?
And the grade she's in?
Okay.
Your age, the grade you're in, and if you're living with your mother and father, if you care to tell us that, or just your mother, or you're living with an aunt or a grandmother, etc., etc. How many siblings you have?
You have all that, Alexandria?
My name. Hello.
Yeah, we
I'm
can.
Alexandria Gwynn. I'm 17, 8th grade, and I live with my grandparents, sir. And I have 7 brothers and sisters.
7.
Yeah. Okay.
And do they all live with grandma?
No, sir. I'm the oldest.
Where are your other sisters and brothers living?
They're with my mother and my father, sir.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
Okay. I had a question on the educational aspect of your book, Come On People. And President Obama has suggested the use of vouchers for students to attend schools with higher standards, like private schools. And I wanted to know your thoughts on this issue.
My thought is you wouldn't really need these vouchers if we could get more parents to come to the public schools, to sign on, to have meetings with the teachers or the guardians. I think that more of our guardians, our caregivers, are people who need to understand that you, the student, need to really and truly have a shot. And they have to, anybody who's with you 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, should be able to talk to them, number one, to find out if you're really going to class. Number two, if they've sent any notes, they need to answer the calls, the telexes, or whatever you do. I'm just a number 2 yellow guy. If you would. I think Dr. Poussant may want to answer something also.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Well, I think if you use vouchers and parents use the vouchers to pick better schools, and then you leave the other schools in bad shape, and no one is concerned about improving those schools, we have to improve all of the public schools, not just drain off some kids to go to special schools where that are better and higher standard schools. So I think there's some risk in using the vouchers of that happening, you know, unless it's done in a very, very fair and equitable way. It shouldn't distract us from the work we need to do, as Cosby pointed out, to make all the schools better, to get all the parents participating in the schools, and so on. That's necessary to upgrade the entire system in education.
Let's go to a phone call here. Baltimore, Maryland, Independent Line. You're on the air with Bill Cosby and Dr. Elvin Poussant. Go ahead.
This is such an honor to be on the air with Bill Cosby.
And sir, how old are you, 17?
I am 77 years old. I'm an obstetrician, retired obstetrician, delivered my first baby in 1956 at the Baltimore City Hospital. I was the first intern at the University of Maryland Hospital at Baltimore City, and the first resident in OBGYN and the resident in any department at the University of Maryland Hospital. So I've seen it all.
What was your undergrad school?
I was undergrad at Morgan State and the University of Maryland Med School, finished in 1957. Intern University of Maryland, 57, 58, residency, 61 to 63.
Now wait, what?
58 to 61.
In Maryland,
yes.
In that time when you entered after Morgan, what year was that? And the reason why I'm asking is because in the 50s, Maryland was still segregated at some point, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right. I finished Morgan in 53, and Brown versus Education was in 54. And I entered University of Maryland in 1953 in the state and graduated in 57.
How many of the black people were there with you at that time?
I was the third graduate of the University of Maryland School of Medicine. There were two others. Donald Stewart and Rod Charles were the first two graduates of the University of Maryland Med School. They finished in 55. I think they entered in 1951.
With all of the things against your color, what was it in your home that stood out, that kept you going after your dream?
I tell you one thing that happened to me. People forget that Baltimoreans and all blacks in the South in many areas were very conservative. It was family, church, home, no movies on Sunday.
That's
no
not
gambling,
conservative.
No drinking.
That's good.
Girls were off limits, and if you dated a girl and didn't marry her, there was a shotgun. And you were very religious. You were afraid. You were afraid not to toe the line.
But what kept you academically on course?
What happened was this. I had a mixed family, similar to the Obamas. My grandmother was Irish. My uncle was very light-skinned, so I never feared white people. I never had an animosity toward them. And there were lots of families like that, interracial families. So when I entered University of Maryland, I looked at them as, there goes grandmother, there goes Uncle Russell, there goes somebody I'm familiar with. So I didn't have that tension, so I guess I was able to be accepted into the world. But what kept me going was, I guess it was the teachers. We had Mrs. Law, Mrs. Wheatley, Du Bois Williams, W.E.B. Du Bois Williams' daughter taught me history.
What color?
Dunbar High, Paul Laurence Dunbar High. So we had good teachers, and I remember in the 4th grade, my mother and father separated, in the 4th grade, I was crying at Thanksgiving, but the teacher came up to me and put her arms around me, Mrs. Taylor, and says, "Don't worry, you don't have a father, but you have me as a friend, and I'll make sure you do well."
Were these segregated schools?
Oh, yes, all the
The
schools,
schools were segregated. So were these black teachers who you're talking about?
All black teachers, all black principals, even black superintendent in the school of in Baltimore City.
What about the Catholic school? There was a black Catholic school, wasn't there?
St. Francis Academy. St. Francis Academy in East Baltimore was a Catholic school over there, but most of the Catholic schools are segregated like most of the Catholic churches were segregated. I am a Catholic.
Okay, thanks, Baltimore. You gentlemen are doing such a good
what's
job
your question?
questioning. Well,
It doesn't make any difference. He answered it.
Yeah, he answered lots of your questions. You're going to take over my job.
I hope so. Because I need work.
Oh, okay.
I was pink slipped yesterday by my wife.
Well, what do you think of the story that he told you as it relates to your book?
Well, see, first of all, our book, if you read it, if you read our book, it has to give the numbers. The numbers are there because it says work has to be done. I'm sorry to tell you, Greta, but you have high blood pressure. So you can get angry if you want to, but you've got to do something about it. And that's what our book is about. We then give examples. This gentleman could have been in our book. However, he would not be in it because we want to show the reader, here's a person who's in your situation, coming from a home with just a mother, lower economic, and then you turn to drugs and you become pregnant, you have 3 children, and you're on drugs, you don't know how to get out of it, and then this is a story that a person tells about their life as they make the turnaround with what Alvin calls after hitting rock bottom.
Let's get a student in here. Our next student from Yanceyville, North Carolina is Callie Patagosh. She's a sophomore in high school. Kelly, what's your age? And if you don't mind telling us who you're living with, your situation there.
I am 15 years old and 10th grade, and I live with my mother.
Okay.
And where is your father, Kelly?
He lives in Reedsville. He left us when I was in 7th grade.
And how old were you in 7th grade?
I think about 11.
Okay.
And what's your question, Callie?
What do you think can be done to motivate fathers not to abandon their families?
Well,
did you understand it? Did you understand her question?
Yeah.
Okay,
What can we
great.
do to motivate fathers not to leave the families?
Yes.
You know, all situations are different, so it's hard to say. But I think one of the things going on in America is sometimes fathers don't take full responsibility and understand that their role is very important in the family and with children. And we should encourage fathers whenever we can to take the responsibilities of being a father very seriously. They're very important. And even in marriages, for people not to so quickly separate or get a divorce. And, you know, we kind of move from like doing things for the children, staying together, to, well, that doesn't really matter, and let's get a divorce. And I think maybe we need a shift over in the old direction, that the children are very important. And sometimes, you know, when people give you a reason for getting a divorce, like I'm bored, or we're just, you know, kind of falling away from each other, may not be an adequate reason for breaking up the family and abandoning the children. Is your father still involved with you?
I don't see him much. Like, the way they got separated, I can see him if I want to, but I'm choosing not to right now.
Why are you choosing not to?
Because I think what he did was insensitive and not something I'm part of.
So anyway, there has to be some mutuality, you know what I mean? That you can't just say, how do we get fathers involved? if you don't want your father to be involved with you and are pushing him away, you have to be ready to forgive or negotiate a relationship with your father so that you both benefit.
Callie?
Yes.
This is Bill Cosby. How are you? Hello?
I'm good.
Okay, I just want you to, if you can answer this question for me. When you think about your father, what do you wish for?
I'm not exactly sure because it's my mom for me to want to be with him, but I don't know if I actually want to be involved with him because he's not a very good person to begin with.
All right. Now, number two, what makes you sad when you think about having to meet him?
The fact that I really don't want to have a confrontation with him about how I feel about it, but I want to do it, yet I don't want to see his reaction to it.
Okay. Now, my third question is, if you can think to yourself, have you spoken to a counselor? Have you tried to talk this through with someone who is a professional in behavior?
No.
Will you try to do that?
Maybe.
No, not necessarily with your father, because you did ask the question, and I think you want to. I'm asking you if you will seek, and I'm sure no matter where you live in that state, is it North Carolina?
It is.
In the state of North Carolina, where you live,
Yes.
if you go to someone, a counselor, the principal, and you just say to them, I want to talk to a counselor, no one is going to push you into anything you don't want. But I do think that you'll find a great deal of clarity once you start to talk to someone about your sadness.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Callie, we're going to move on to Washington, D.C. Democrats line. You're our next phone call.
Hello, good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Bill Cosby, a legend, and Dr. Great for being here. I guess I was listening to you say about, being, just the whole life pattern being down, and it was like you were starting at, from the book. It was like, going through stuff. I'm kind of going through some things, but I was calling really to respond about the deficit and all those type things. So I feel like this: Barack Obama, they approved all this money, $800 billion. I just want you guys' opinions. I heard something on CNN says if they spend $1 million a day from since the time of Christ to now, you couldn't spend $800 billion. So they talk about the economy is bad and this, that. If they gave the money to, it's 60 billion people in the United States, $1 million, that would generate more funds. That would generate and bring the economy up. Plus, it'll take the middle class and the lower class out to be equal, and it would just create more things. It would,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Cole, we'll leave it there and get their thoughts on this stimulus spending and Barack Obama's.
Well, I think that, without going into all the figures, I think the purpose of the stimulus, as stated, is to get people back to work and get people being consumers again and spending more and lifting the whole economy. The question of whether it's enough money, we'll have to wait and see, because the economy keeps changing. And seems to continue to deteriorate, but then you have some ups. So it's hard to tell how much money is needed, but the money is primarily directed at people who are middle class, but more than that, people who are low income. I mean, people who are getting job benefits when they don't have a job and having some money to live on, perhaps avoiding foreclosures or having to live in a homeless shelter. And that's very, very important. Again, bringing in kids, that's very important to the children as well, to be able to live well and not just be completely, totally poverty-stricken and not able to survive.
Let's talk to, go ahead.
I think a part of his $1 million is sitting there waiting for him to pick it up. If he's not working, I don't think he's out of work, but if he's not working, speaking generally of people, there's something called community college. As of this moment, they have not shut down the community colleges. Community colleges mean just that, the community. You can go into the community college if you have no high school diploma. About 90% of them will set you up so that you can get your high school equivalency diploma, GED. And they also have courses set up so that you can, quote unquote, reinvent yourself. Now, all of this is thinking on you. What is available? What are they hiring now? Who are they hiring now? What are the salaries? And I tell you right now, as sure as it doesn't make any difference what you are, who you are, you go to that community college, a human being will talk to you. A human being will help you think yourself through your own reinvention of yourself.
And in the stimulus bill, there is money to retrain people and to help them develop new skills and other skills to get other types of jobs.
Let's go back to Yanceyville, North Carolina, another student aboard our C-SPAN Civics bus. Speaking of the economy, Yanceyville area has been hit by unemployment with a 10% unemployment rate and a collapse of their textile industry there. So joining us aboard the C-SPAN Civics bus is Maurice Lipscomb, a junior, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, what's your age?
I'm 17, ma'am.
All right, go ahead.
Who are you living with, Maurice?
Just my mom, sir.
And have you seen your father?
It's been a while. A couple of months since last time I seen her.
All right. And brother, you have many brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters.
Any halves? Half-sisters, step-sisters?
No, sir.
All right, sir. May I have your question?
Yes. The law allows the parents to abandon the children. I was wondering, should courts have a say in should force them to take parenting classes or any such things like that?
Okay, now help me out, Maurice. Maurice, what is it that you want? What is it you want? What can we do for you?
What do you mean?
Well, you said something about parenting classes.
He was wondering if the courts can enforce parenting classes. That was his question.
And my question is, Maurice, what do you want? Do you want better parenting?
What?
Maurice, once again, if you're unhappy with your life, with the way things are, you need to talk with and to someone. I'm not sure about the law, but if you are unhappy, I think that you should try the school, talk to your counselor, and then move from there, because there are, in some states, in some cities, organizations not far from where you live, family, what are they called, Alvin? Family counseling.
Yeah, family counseling,
that
family
you can go
support
to,
centers.
You can go to by yourself. That may not be true, but you can go
He could go 17. He could go in and ask for help, and they could take him. They may need permission from his parents or his mother, but they could arrange ways to get him help.
How was that, Maurice?
The other thing is with Maurice is that in the case of like child abuse and so on, sometimes the courts do require that the parents or the abuser get help in being a parent and how to know how to parent. And because in order to help prevent the abuse in the future in the family. But in general, I think that all people should get help around parenting, and if I had my way, I would have parenting education in all of the middle schools and high schools for all of the students so that they learn something about being a parent. And even if they just remembered 10%, it would make an awfully difference in a positive direction for our children.
And I think that, Maurice, you should go immediately before it gets any worse. And I'm talking about your feelings, whether it's your father, your mother. Talk to someone now so that it won't get any stronger. The depression.
And that's because we know in writing this book, but know that a lot of the young people with depression, they also develop anger and a lot of despair, and that leads to other types of problems, including a fall off in doing their schoolwork, dropping out of high school, getting involved with crime or drugs because they're depressed and because they're angry. So getting help in those situations is really preventative.
Alexandria, Virginia, you're next.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hi, this is Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to say good morning to these wonderful gentlemen. Thank you for all of your work with this book, and I want to especially thank you for challenging all people, black, white, Hispanic, to get back to intact families. I think the callers before echoed how painful it is to be raised not knowing their fathers or their fathers not in their lives. And some of the research that I've been doing shows that back in the 60s, 74% of black families were married. And it's down to less than 30% now, sadly too high for whites and Hispanics also. The question I have is from Star Parker. I don't know if you're aware of her writings. She is at urbancure.org. She is calling on us to have a national conversation because she feels that there are policies that have profoundly damaged the American black community, and that most of those are ones that don't encourage fatherhood, marriage, abstinence. I have been teaching abstinence.
Can you be specific about the policies that damage your families?
Well, she was saying anything that encourages to not be married, that is an okay option. And having sex outside of wedlock, when you just hand a person a condom and say, you're protected, go ahead and use this condom, go ahead and engage in the behavior that causes most of the social ills, I think she's challenging people to the high standard of, we need to exercise self-control, and you won't be stuck in poverty. You won't have a child out of wedlock. You won't have an STD. You won't have to have a difficult choice of abortion, which sadly really affects the black community. They account for over a third of the abortions. And if you don't make the choice up front, she's thinking that if you can direct youth to the high standard to not engage in the behavior to begin with, all of these social ills will be accomplished, and you will have more intact families.
All right, we'll leave it there. What do you think?
Well, I think that's kind of ideal. It's not the reality in terms of the way people behave. But I think that we definitely need more programs in schools in the community around issues, just really like sex education, but it's much more than that. And I mean, it's education in responsibility and so on. And as you know, abstinence programs don't seem to work. If that's all you're trying to do, they don't seem to work very well. And I think if they're not working very well in sex education, you have to learn that there is such a thing as a condom that will prevent pregnancy in most instances, and also getting STDs and getting HIV and AIDS. So that we should encourage those educational efforts, but yes, stress responsibility and educating young people about what the risks are and what they face if they have a baby as a teenager, what life will be like. That all needs to be done.
Other than the fact that you have to wake up and change the diapers and that it cries.
Right, right.
You know, there's more to it than that.
That's right. Sometimes a lot of young people, and not just teenagers, even some older women who have babies, kind of think it's going to be like a doll, and really then get hit with the realities of what it is really like to raise a baby. And that's why I think if we had parenting education in the schools, and I think there's one school district in the South doing that, it will give some reality to what it means to be a parent. And maybe because of that, many will say, listen, I don't want to do that, you know, and hold it off and not just jump into it, because there's all kinds of motivations that are inappropriate that people have, both the boys and the girls, for making babies.
There's a father I was talking to. His daughter was called to school. He was called to school. The school nurse said, your daughter is late with her period. And he looked at her, and she was very, very sad about it. And he wanted to know who the fellow was, and how did it happen? And she's 14. Well, what happened was he talked to her about how much he loved her. He talked to her about how it was a surprise to him. But as a parent, and I think this is a problem with many, many parents, he was afraid to take her to the home of the boy and meet with the boy's mother and father and have a discussion about what went on before, during, not to describe, but during, and why she allowed the boy to release in her. And then hear what the boy had to say, because her reason to her father was, he talked in my ear and he said that he loved me very, very much. And the father was afraid, because he thought if he asked these questions, she would dislike him.
Let's go back to Yanceyville, North Carolina, where our students are aboard our C-SPAN Civics bus. This is the 45th stop of our 100 Days, 100 Schools, and Yanceyville High School, Bartlett Yancey High School, is joining us on the bus. There is Evan Moser. Mr. Moser, you're a junior there?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your question?
My question was, what...
Can you answer? Are you at home? Who are you living with, sir?
I'm with my mother and father right now.
All right. And sisters and brothers?
I have a twin brother and sister. They're 31.
All right, sir. Your question.
The question I want in women in charge of our major record industries, whose artists promote the gangster rap lifestyle, and how it's a negative effect on us as youth and us as parents.
You know what? We're using Skype technology aboard the bus. That's why there's a little bit of a delay there. Mr. Moser, can you just begin again with your question?
Yes, I was wondering what both of y'all would have to say about the men and women in charge of the major record industries, whose artists produce gangster rap and that lifestyle, and the negative effects it has on us as parents and us as people, as young adults in America.
Well, I think gangster rap, you know, of course they produce it because it makes a lot of money. But gangster rap encourages a lot of behaviors in young people, including glamorizing violence, glamorizing irresponsible sex, misogyny that is not being very hateful toward women. I mean, language like hoes and bitches, the way they refer to women, that's a very destructive and damaging to the community, and encourages young people to act irresponsibly. But that's just one element, because the parents are in the picture too. And sometimes, you know, the parents are playing this music and they're letting their young children listen to the music on the car radio and listen to it in the home. So the parents can do something to help shut it out. With teenagers, it's another problem, but they have to have some values. And they just can't blindly go along with behaviors and encourage behaviors that are destructive to them, that they know are going to get them in trouble, or adopt a thug style that's going to get them in jail when they think somehow it's cool and going to give them status. They have to step back and look at the destructive aspects of things like gangster rap. But that's not the only thing, that's just one element.
Tamarack, Florida, Independent Line.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. I'm calling because I have a question for Dr. Poulsen. Okay. As you were talking, you were saying that people should go to school to relearn another trade. And somebody like me, who already have an education, I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I went back to school last year to learn event management because I'm unable to find a job. I'm 60 years old, and it's very, very hard to find a job. And I'm single, and I'm listening to the program that Obama have regarding the stimulus package. I see refinancing for people who have a job, and I do not see where I fall. And I'm really frustrated and scared and everything. And I'm asking you, if you have any idea, somebody like me, what can I do?
Do you go to the employment agencies, the agencies that are supposed to help you to find a job?
I am with every single agency, okay? I go there, the recruiters look at my resume, and they marvel over it until they ask me for my driver's license. Then I will call them every week. They are never available. They do not have any job. They tell me nothing is coming through.
So
and yesterday
feel
again, I was at another one. Pardon me?
You feel they're discriminating against you because of your age?
Well, yes. There is a discrimination that no one is looking into. That, you know, once you reach 50, the job... Because I have been in this country since I was 14 years old. And I started working at 19 years old. I was never without a job until I reached my 50s. Then it become impossible for me to find a job.
Well, you know, I think there is a lot of age discrimination that goes on, a lot of it in our society on jobs and so on. A lot of older people just, they won't take them and they won't give them work because of age discrimination. That's supposed to be against the law. Particularly if you're firing somebody because of their age. But I think on the other hand, trying to just get in the door when you're older is very difficult for a lot of people, and I think all communities, including agencies and the politicians, have to continue to work on that to help older citizens. And you know, things have changed. I mean, you may live to be 105, and it's not like people are retiring anymore at age 55 or 60. They're going on to work. So there have to be jobs available, since you have skills that you can have to make a living just like everybody else. Particularly, it sounds like you are single, I think, and on your own, and you need to work. Now, I think the agencies in your community, not just the job employment ones, but social service agencies, also have to get behind you and try to help you to get a job.
Let's say hello to Brianna Graves, a junior in Yanceyville, North Carolina, at the high school there. Go ahead, Brianna.
Hey, my name is Brianna Graves. I'm 16 in the 11th grade. I stay with my mom and my grandmother, and I have 2 younger siblings.
Where's Dad? Where's your father?
What was that? He lives in Kernersville.
He's not living with the family?
No, they separated when I was about 7.
Okay, Brianna, what's your question?
My question is, how could the community get involved and help mothers who remain with the children break the cycle of abandonment?
That's similar to an earlier question. You have any relationship with your father now?
Yes, he has a big impact. Like he's there.
He has a big impact when he's there.
When he's there, so you do have
He is.
you have a relationship with him and you see him.
But not enough.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's not enough. You still
Yes.
feel very hurt and upset by the separation and your father not being in the home.
I did when I was younger, but then I got a little bit older and I started understanding. So now it's kind of okay.
Yeah, but you said he makes a big impact when he is there. That means I'm understanding that you feel better when you see him. Am I correct?
I said he is a big impact. Yes, well.
You feel better when you see him.
Well, it's kind of the same when I see him and when I don't see him, because it's still, I know my expectations when it comes to him, and it's about the same when it's with my mother and my father. They have the same expectations.
Okay, when you see him, are you already thinking how sad it is that he will not be there, that soon he will be leaving?
No, not really.
Do you get angry with him that he's not around?
No.
No?
But you asked about the abandonment issue. So what is it that brought this question to you, which is a very good question?
Well, when I was younger, it hurt me a lot because I cried a lot when I was younger about it. But like I said, when I got older, it kind of came to me that it's kind of okay because he's still there.
But you're still not happy.
No, because I told them numerous times that I want to be like everybody else. I want my mother and my father to be there when I get home off the bus.
Okay, there are things we cannot say over the air or ask you, or that we don't want to. But think about it, that if when they are together, they are not happy. And when they are together, you can witness people arguing with each other, being very angry with each other, and there are things that you will not be able to control. There may be even worse things that you can experience if two people are together and they're not happy with each other. I think go ahead, Doctor.
No, go ahead, finish. No, I was. It's just interesting how many questions have come up about fathers.
And, and what do you make of that, given your book?
Well, we emphasize that in the book, that studies show that children react strongly if their fathers are not in the home, and that they feel abandoned, they feel depressed. It affects their feelings of self-worth, because they feel that, well, if Dad loved me, he would want to be with me. And the fact that I'm abandoned by him, that maybe something's wrong with me, that I'm not good enough. And it hurts their self-esteem, so it has a deep effect. And later they get depression, but then sometimes it turns into anger. Like, why are you leaving me, and so on. And this has, again, a negative effect. Studies show when fathers are not around, children don't do as well in school. There's more likely to be a teenage pregnancy in the home. The kids are more likely to get involved in crime. So the father's involvement, we feel, is very critical in raising children that is not receiving the proper emphasis. And even if the fathers are divorced, even if they're unwed fathers, that some kind of father involvement with the children is beneficial to them. And all of these young people are saying that.
And that was our last student from Yanceyville, North Carolina. So we want to thank their teacher, Bartlett Yancey High School's Judy Loftus, for preparing the students this morning for today's call-in.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, Judy.
And that it means that we are all out of time as well. So, Mr. Bill Cosby and Dr. Alvin Poussaint, thank you, sir. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Alvin and I
Thank you.
want this as an apartment.
You
and
do?
You have to move out.
Okay. Thank you very much. That does it for today's Washington Journal. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time.